And one factor, among many, but a very important factor that unifies a group of people is when they are all acting with the same motivation. And they all have the same thought, the same intention. And so here at the Abbey, we constantly cultivate our virtuous intention of the bodhicitta, the mind that aspires to attain full awakening, so that we can have the wisdom, the compassion, and the capacity to really be of the greatest benefit to all living beings. So right now, at our level, we may feel this is a pretty high goal, pretty vast, pretty amazing, but we still aspire for it, and we try and put our energies in that direction. And on the way, in order to do that, then we cultivate loving kindness, we cultivate great compassion, we cultivate equanimity and empathic joy. So we really make an effort to steer our minds in a good direction, really making use of our great human potential. And so let's make that as our common unifying motivation for being here, for the whole retreat, and especially for the talk this evening. So a little background first about the book, Approaching the Buddhist Path. Like I said, it's the first volume in a series that's called The Library of Wisdom and Compassion that His Holiness and I are co-authoring. And so this volume is an introductory volume, and we are presently on the 9th chapter, which is called Tools for the Path. And so this chapter is a lot of general information that it's very helpful for people who did not grow up as Buddhists to have, so that they, when they really engage in the path and engage in Buddhism, they can understand like what it's all about and what does a practice mean? What does it mean to really, enter the path and so on? Okay, so far what we've talked about in this particular chapter is there's been some general advice, and we talked about wisdom and faith. Okay, we need both of them, and proper practice. And then also purification and accumulation of merit, which you'll hear a lot about, or maybe you've heard about. And the present topic that we're starting on now is prayers and rituals. So I think this is very helpful to learn, because everybody has a different response to prayers and rituals. And every faith, every spiritual tradition, every human endeavor basically has a ritual aspect to it. I mean, our lives, we wake up in the morning and we have our own little morning ritual, don't we? Okay, so here, if we're going to do a Buddhist spiritual practice, what kind of rituals do we engage in, and how important are they, and what is valuable about rituals? Is it just the doing of the ritual itself? Or, what's this all about? Because especially in Tibetan Buddhism is very colorful, and if you've been to India or, been in the Tibetan community, there's so many rituals. And, we have bells and drums and long horns and short horns and small drums and big drums, and the monks who chant with really deep voices, and fast chants and slow chants, and so many pujas, and people doing things in pujas, passing out offerings, collecting things, distributing stuff, giving stuff to other people, lots going on. And why are we doing all of this? Okay? So I think it's important for people from the West to understand this, because there's a lot to do with your senses. And is it just a spectacle? Instead of going to the opera, you go to a puja, and it's a great spectacle with a lot happening. Yeah. So I think we need to understand this kind of thing. Okay, so that's what this section is about. So His Holiness starts out, whenever it says me or I, unless it's otherwise noted, it's His Holiness's voice. So he says, many people ask me to pray for them. Thousands of Buddhas and gurus already pray for us, but because we do not practice sincerely, nothing happens. I think he's telling us something important here. Okay. Our progress depends on our own effort, and I am always delighted when students sincerely practice to transform their minds. That is the best offering. So people are always coming to His Holiness with, all sorts of offerings, material things, money, this, that, and he's saying the best offering is when people practice what he teaches. Yeah. How many spiritual leaders do you hear saying that? Yeah. I mean, this is how you discriminate or discern a genuine spiritual teacher from one who says, and the offering bowl is right here. Okay. And the pledge papers are over there. Yeah. So Bodhisattvas, these are beings who aspire to become Buddhas. Bodhisattvas make a vast array of aspirations and prayers, and then strive to accomplish their aspirations. In contrast, ordinary people pray to have a happy life, but ignore Dharma practice, which is the source of happiness. Yeah, it's very interesting because we all want happiness. And, all our prayers are about, may I and my family and so on and so forth have happiness. And then we don't create the causes of happiness. We get angry at people, we tell people off, we cheat them, we talk badly behind their back. And we say we want happiness, but actually our actions, are ethically detrimental, and we're creating the cause of suffering, and then we wonder why we have problems. Yeah? It's like if you have a really hot temper and you blow up a lot, and you criticize people, and then you scratch your head and you say, why don't people like me? Okay? Or you say, I want to lose weight, but you go to the ice cream store, you go to 31 flavors, and then you go, well, how come I'm not losing weight? Because somehow our aspirations and our actions are not matching. Okay? So His Holiness says, they pray, may I be healthy, but eat junk food. They aspire to have good relationships with others, but are careless about their speech. Good relationships will elude us as long as we speak divisively, blame, or criticize others. Anybody here speak like that? Sometimes, once in a while. We should be like the Bodhisattvas and think about what causes will accomplish our prayers. If we create those causes, our prayers will bear fruit, and we will be receptive to the inspiration of the three jewels, the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. When we request spiritual mentors or monastics to pray for us, we should, from our side, refrain from non-virtuous behavior and act constructively. Okay? That way, their prayers can be effective. The actualization of virtuous prayers and aspirations is a cooperative effort. Prayers are made, we engage in virtuous actions, and the three jewels send their aspiration. Okay? So just praying, and especially most of us probably grew up in theistic religions where you pray to God or saints or somebody else outside of yourself, and please make this happen, please make that happen, may this good thing happen to me and the people I care, and may this bad thing happen to all the people who I don't like. When we have prayers and aspirations like that, are we creating the cause for our virtuous aspirations to bear fruit? And what kind of karma, what kind of energy are we putting out when we have non-virtuous prayers like, may my boss get hit by a truck, or, I'm sure we have all sorts of prayers for people in Washington, D.C. Yeah, do we have virtuous prayers for them? May they be clear-minded, may they be compassionate, or do we wish them harm? Yeah. So we have to look at what's the quality of our mind when we have different aspirations. But in any case, when we have virtuous ones, what His Holiness is saying, it's not that we just pray and then somebody outside rearranges the world to make the world the way we want it. Okay? It's, we have to create the causes, through our practice, through creating virtue. And then if people make prayers and aspirations, because we've created virtuous causes or good karma, then the prayers and aspirations can actually bear fruit. But if we don't, then they're just kind of like empty words. Yeah, it's, we all know that, don't we? And from our own lives and from watching other people, where people say, may I go to college, but they don't study and they don't take the SAT test. Okay? So, may I learn how to cook, but they don't go enroll in a cooking class. So it's the same kind of thing. We have to do something from our side and not just expect like magic to happen and some external being is going to, make everything good happen for us. So then there's a quote from Prajnavarman's commentary on the Udana Varga, where the Buddha says, Buddhas do not wash away negativities with water, clear away sentient beings' dukkha with their hands, or transfer their realizations to other beings. They liberate them by teaching the truth of reality. Okay, this is a very famous quotation. Yeah, you see it a lot, you hear it a lot, Okay? So the Buddhists do not wash away our negativities with water. Now, you may think, but wait, I go to these pujas and they give us holy water and blessed water. Haven't you seen in those vases, the big ones with the narrow top, with the white scarf and the colorful things hanging, and then they pour some blessed water in your hand, and you sip it and you put it on top of your head. Isn't that gonna give me a blessing and wash away all my negative karma for 3 million eons? No. Okay. If you think, I regret all my negativities, I will do my best not to do them again in the future, I will try and do some positive actions to, compensate for what I've done, then some purification is going to happen, whether or not you drink the blessed water. The blessed water might help you remember to think like that. But, the water alone. Okay, so Buddhists don't wash away negativities with water. We wish they did. Yeah, yeah. Wouldn't it be nice, in India they go bathe. The Hindus bathe in the Ganges River, and they say it purifies them. Don't you want to go bathe in the Mississippi? The muddy Mississippi, and get purified of all your negativities? Yeah, how about you want to go into, the Ponderay River running through Newport? Yeah. Okay, Buddhists do not clear away beings' dukkha, their suffering, their unsatisfactory circumstances with their hands. So the way Buddhists help us isn't by washing us with water. It's not by, giving us $1 million, giving us something with their hands, or saying, okay, I want to give you realizations on the path. Here they are. That's not how we get realizations. Buddhists don't transfer their realizations to other beings. So it's not like, you send a bank draft to somebody else. You transfer money from your account to their account. Yeah. So the Buddha's going to transfer us some realizations. Gee, we can wish, can't we? But how do they teach us? What's the most important way the Buddhists teach us? They liberate sentient beings by teaching the truth of reality. Yeah, giving the teachings is the way the Buddhists benefit us the most, because when we hear the teachings or read them or study them and then put them into practice, then our mind changes. Yeah, we're able to purify negativities, accumulate merit, learn how to develop good qualities. So hearing teachings is really the start of the whole thing. Yeah, and that's how the Buddhas benefit us the most. Okay. Lots of people come to Buddhism and they say, I want to learn to meditate. And Buddha says, sit down, I'm going to teach you something. And you say, but I want to learn to meditate. Yeah, what do I do? Aren't I supposed to just get all the thoughts out of my mind? Duh. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's not how you meditate. That's not the goal of meditation. That's why we need to listen to teachings. And that's why the most important gift we get from the Buddha is the teachings that he gives. Because if we don't have teachings, then we invent our own meaning for different words that we hear. And we invent a path to liberation without having a clue about what we're doing. Yeah. So that's how the Buddhists help us the most, is through teachings. But of course, we come to teachings Yeah. What's he talking about? Okay, we have a nice nap sometimes during teachings. Okay, so His Holiness continues. Buddhas cannot magically make everything go well in our lives and in the world. The principal way they help us sentient beings is by teaching us how to create the causes for happiness and abandon the causes for suffering. Making our actions accord with their instructions, especially the instructions regarding ethical conduct, is essential to alleviate dukkha, our unsatisfactory experiences. We may recite thousands of prayers and mantras, but if we do not use the Dharma tools to transform our minds, we are wasting time. Okay. As Zalpatro Rinpoche candidly says, he was a great Nyingma teacher from the 19th century. Yeah. He said, ritual sessions 4 times a day without the generation and completion stages, pounding drums and clashing cymbals without reminding ourselves of pure perception, droning mantras without any concentration. All that gets us no further on the path to liberation. So he could have said, you have your malas, and you count manipimyo, 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 manipimyo. Yeah, and you circumambulate things, and you count. Yeah, you circumambulate because all these Buddhists have. All these buildings have Buddhist statues in, so they say if you circumambulate, with your right side towards the Buddha, it creates merit. And bowing and, working your mala and mani pemi hong, or om muni muni ma muni asoha. And your mind's out to lunch. But you look really good because you have the right kind of mala and the right kind of clothes to go to a Buddhist course. Yeah, and you have the right kind of meditation cushion. And, because there's all these Buddhist magazines that sell all this stuff. You need a zafu and a zabuton, you need a puja table, and you need your mala, and you need, different prayer books, and you need you need all your gear. Yeah. And so we think, okay, I got all the gear for $99.99, and now I'm set. Yeah. And to build the Buddha Hall here, they're asking us to chant Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Asoha. So that's what I'm doing. Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Asoha Muni. Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Asoha Muni 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 Ma Muni Asoha Muni Muni Ma Muni. Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Asoha Muni Muni Muni. Okay, I've done enough. We add another 100. Yeah? She's giving me a dirty look because saying all the mantra was her idea and I'm making fun of it. Right? Yeah. So, just saying the mantra, we could turn on the tape recorder. Yeah, let the tape recorder do it. We're in the modern tech age now. Yeah. Put the mantra on, nobody has tape recorders anymore either, do they? You put it on your iPad, put it on your phone, put it on your computers, play them all at once. Then you accumulate even more mantra because you have many devices reciting the mantra all at once. Yeah, and meanwhile, you can sit and watch a sci-fi movie. Yeah? Or, one of those new, I don't know what the new movies are. Yeah. So the whole point in all these things is not the external activity. Yeah. The whole point is how our mind changes when we do the activity. The whole point is, what is our motivation for doing this? Yeah. Are we just accumulating 108? Actually, it just went up to 1 million. Yeah, they begged me, may they, instead of 108,000, oh, muni, muni, mani, muni, so may we have 1 million. So I said, okay, you say them. Yeah, is that the whole thing, that we just want to chalk up 1 million? Yeah, no, the whole thing is what's going on in our mind. What is our purpose when we're saying the mantra? Yeah, are we really thinking about making a building where generations of people who aspire to receive liberating teachings can come and receive those teachings? Are we thinking about creating a building where people who want to meditate, to really integrate their mind with the teachings on love and compassion, where they can come and do their meditation and have conducive circumstances? Okay. So it isn't just, there's some chart, I think, on the website in order to, mark up how many thousands of mantra that everybody together is accumulating. I think everybody can each get an individual card, can't they too? Yeah, soon. You can get an individual card, and then, yeah, before you leave. And then you can mark how many, rounds in your mala of Om Muni Muni Ma Muni So you've done. You can color it in, Yeah, green pen, red pen, make it look nice. But is that, the purpose, to send those things in? And then we put it on the web and everybody gets excited. Oh, look, we're at 500,000 mantra. Ooh, 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 ooh. But nobody's mind is changing. Yeah, you say the mantra and then you put down your mala, and then, you go gossip with your friends and criticize your coworkers and talk behind your boss's back and, say who knows what about people in politics. Yeah. Are we, the whole point is not to the number. The whole point is transforming our mind. Yeah. Bringing our mind closer to how a Buddha thinks. Okay, that's the purpose of doing all these things. So His Holiness continues, the main purpose of rituals involving deity yoga practice, those are the rituals with the bells and drums and cymbals and, all the stuff going on. Okay, the rituals involving deity yoga practice, the main purpose is to generate the union of method and wisdom. What's that? Yeah, method means compassion, bodhicitta, altruistic intention. Wisdom means the wisdom that understands reality. Okay, the purpose of the rituals is not to seek blessings, as if nirvana were something external to us that our spiritual mentor or meditation deity could transfer into our mind stream. Yeah. Please, Buddha, I want to attain nirvana. Please, Buddha, yeah, I want nirvana. Yeah, waiting for the Buddha to deliver nirvana. Yeah. But the package is late and we don't have the right tracking number. Okay, that's not it. Tantric practices are, it says, it is not to seek blessings as if nirvana were something external to us that our spiritual mentor or meditation deity could transfer into our mind stream. Tantric practices are very profound, but to derive the greatest benefit from them, we must have a good foundation in general Buddhist teachings and learn how to meditate while performing these rituals. Okay? So to learn how to direct our mind into a virtuous, constructive way of thinking while we do these rituals. That's where the transformation happens. Okay. Well, making offerings to the Sangha and requesting them to perform pujas on our behalf creates merit due to our sincere motivation. We should not think that we can hire someone to create merit, freeing us to continue to deceive customers at work or get drunk with our friends. Okay? And I mean, His Holiness is really spot on here, because many people, they like to go and request from the monasteries and nunneries to please do certain rituals, and they'll make a monetary offering so that they can buy offerings and so that the people who come, get a tip. And, and the monastery gets some income. But that's not what it's about. It's really about changing the mind stream, okay? So we shouldn't think that when we make offerings to the Sangha or to the monastery, we shouldn't think that we're hiring the monastics to create virtue so that, like His Holiness says, we can go back to work and deceive customers, or go out and get drunk with our friends, or do something else, okay? And when he says this, because I've lived in the Tibetan community for quite a long time, you see, many people have that attitude of, we want a puja to eliminate obstacles, or a relative died and we want to do a puja to create merit, to help them have a good rebirth. And the attitude of the people is, it's like, well, I give the monastery some money and then they'll create the merit and dedicate it. And in the meantime, I don't really have to do anything. Yeah. So I remember one time after my grandmother died, I went to see one of the meditators in the mountains above Dharamsala. And I made a small offering to him. And I said, would you, dedicate for my grandmother who died? And he gave the money back and he said, you're the one who has the closest karma with her. Yeah, you should create some merit and dedicate it for her benefit. Yeah. And this particular monk was a real meditator. He was, one of the true ones. Okay, His Holiness continues. People easily believe that the performance of a ritual, not the mental change it is supposed to invoke in the participants, is an end to itself. And that's true, isn't it? Many people think that it's just the doing of the ritual that brings the good luck. Yeah, but it's actually what goes on inside of us that has the good effect. This is okay. So people easily believe that the performance of a ritual, not the mental change it is supposed to invoke in the participants, is an end to itself. This is precisely the attitude that the Buddha opposed during his life, and that led to his disapproval of rites and rituals done simply for their own sake. Nowadays, it seems that some people are going backward into this superstitious way of thinking and not forward into deeper, more genuine practice. Okay? So His Holiness is not saying rituals and pujas are useless. And he's not saying don't give donations to the Sangha. He's saying, when you do these things, make sure you're transforming your mind. Yeah, that way you accumulate some merit. That way you're redirecting your mind in a good direction. After a large teaching in the West some years ago, the students wanted to offer me a long life puja. Although I appreciated their kind intentions and good wishes, I explained to them that it is their Dharma practice that keeps their gurus alive and ensures the presence of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in the world. If they don't practice, there is no need for Buddhas and Bodhisattvas to appear in the world or for our teachers to live long. Yeah? So if we don't practice and they're just there and we're not listening and following instructions, yeah. However, if the students practice even a little of what I say, so that when we meet again, they have less anger, jealousy, and attachment, then I will be extremely happy, and the cause for their spiritual mentors to live long will be present. So if you want your teachers to live long, practice. Yeah. Okay. I was once requested to exercise a spirit. Not knowing any rituals for this, I meditated on compassion and bodhicitta. Later, the people told me the problem stopped, so I felt that perhaps I did something helpful. Okay? So he didn't do any rituals, he meditated on love and compassion. Yeah. Another time, customers of a hotel had had bad experiences in a particular room. Not telling me this beforehand, the staff had me stay in that room. Because they thought, oh, it's the Dalai Lama, he's going to come and bless our hotel. But they thought, we can't tell him that somebody had a bad experience and maybe they're spirits, we'll just let him go there and stay. So they put him in that room. Okay, where I did my daily practice, which includes meditation on compassion and emptiness. Later, they told me that the room had become peaceful and their customers could stay there again. While I haven't realized bodhicitta or emptiness, this attests to the power of meditating on them. Okay, so just doing the meditation. Please remember this when you face difficulties. Yeah, so when you have a problem, don't just freak out. What do I do? What do I do? Blah, blah, blah. He just told us what to do. You meditate on compassion and bodhicitta and the nature of reality. Okay, so we need to remember this. In the Tibetan community, it is common to ask a spiritual mentor to do a divination when facing an obstacle or beginning a new project. This is very common, okay? So the Tibetans have many different forms of divination. Most of this comes from the pre-Buddhist Bon tradition, but they have given it Buddhist rituals and Buddhist meaning now, okay? So they'll do some kind of divination, yeah? So sometimes they have dice, like the kind you used to play Monopoly with, and they'll throw the dice and then pray to a certain protector, Or there's one where you take your mala and you move the beads. There's another one where you put different answers inside little dough balls and then throw it around and see what comes out of a bowl. There's lots of different ways to do divination, okay? So His Holiness is saying, in the Tibetan community, it's common to ask a spiritual mentor to do a divination when facing an obstacle or beginning a new project. Okay, the idea being that the divination, you'll get something from, a protector or some kind of spirit or something that can tell you something useful. Maybe it's like seances, yeah, or tarot cards, yeah, or going to a fortune teller, something like that. So divination texts often attribute a problem to spirit harm, and usually the diviner will recommend that a particular puja be performed to eliminate the obstacles caused by spirits. However, as Buddhists, we should not be attributing our problems to external beings, but to our own karma. So our problems come from our own actions. Karma means, intentional action. So look to how we act, how we behave. What do we do? How do we speak to other people? How do we think? Yeah. Are we putting goodness into the world, or are we being self-centered and just thinking about ourselves? Okay. So, His Holiness says, it's more important to look to your own actions. He continues, I prefer that instead of prescribing pujas. Diviners tell people to I prefer that instead of prescribing pujas, diviners tell people to meditate on bodhicitta and emptiness, to deepen their refuge in the three jewels, or to reflect on the law of karma and its effects, and engage in purification practices. That's what he's saying he prefers. Yeah? These will definitely cure the causes of suffering by transforming people's minds. There is no need to consult a horoscope before starting a project or deciding where to place an altar. I don't have much faith in horoscopes and astrology. My tutor, Ling Rinpoche, told me he was born on a day of 9 bad signs. Yeah, Ling Rinpoche was my ordination master, incredible, being. His Holiness says, we don't wait for a good date for the 2 most significant activities of our life, our birth and death. Yeah, however, as an ancient tradition that is part of Tibetan culture and heritage, it's important to continue Tibetan astrology. Okay, so it's because it's a cultural thing, he recommends that. But himself, when I was working on the books with him, we were trying to figure out some days to meet. And he had a day, he was giving a whole series of teachings. And one day, there were many bad signs, so he wasn't supposed to teach on that day. So he said, oh, now we have a whole day. We can meet together and work on the book. And so we did. I went in the morning, and then I went in the afternoon. We got a lot done. And His Holiness was in a great mood. Yeah. Okay. The next section is called Study, Reflection, and Meditation. So we hear of these 3 a lot. To study, hear, learn, read, the Dharma, to reflect or think or contemplate on it, and then to meditate on it, to integrate it with our mind. The sutras speak of the 3-fold practice of study, critical reflection, and meditation, and the understanding or wisdom that is developed by each one. Individually and together, these 3 enable us to practice skillfully, avoid pitfalls and detours, and gain liberating realizations. Okay, so study. In ancient times, the Buddha's teachings were passed down orally, so the first step in learning was to hear the teachings. The broader meaning of hearing, so they usually say hearing, reflection, meditation, but the broader meaning of hearing includes all forms of study, including reading and new forms of learning. So doing things, discussing, things like that. Studying the sutras and tantras, as well as treatises and commentaries by later sages, gives us the necessary information to know how to practice. Without this first critical step, we risk making up our own path or practicing incorrectly. So that's what I was saying before, the importance of learning at the beginning. Many people are eager to meditate, which is commendable, but without proper study, they run the risk of going astray. They will not know how to meditate correctly, even if they have strong aspiration to do so. So we may have a wonderful motivation, to meditate, but if we don't learn how to do it properly, we won't be able to actualize our aspiration. Studying the teachings on emptiness, we learn the reasonings that prove phenomena are empty of inherent existence. Study reveals different perspectives on a topic, thereby increasing our mental flexibility and acuity. Then, when we contemplate and meditate, we can look at the topic from many angles and see connections among diverse points. Knowing the paths and stages on the path to awakening enables us to assess our own progress when we are not able to consult our spiritual mentor. Hearing is not dry intellectual learning. It is dynamic and sparks transformation in our minds. Okay, so learning is very important. We learn so we can meditate properly. We learn so that, if we want to realize the nature of reality, we have some idea what it is and how to do that. We learn so that we can evaluate our meditations, Otherwise, really, we just kind of make up our own stuff. And I can say that, from my own personal experience, because when I first learned Dharma, I went to a 3-week course, and then I went to Nepal, but there were a couple of months in between there, the end of the course and when I went to Nepal. And I had heard, certain Dharma words, and I didn't, all I had was 3 weeks of teaching. It wasn't very much. And I was thinking, I know what that word means, and I know what this experience is. And then after I learned something, I realized I had no clue before, no clue what was going on. Yeah, but I thought I did. Yeah. One Lama said that it is better to study scriptures 1 month than to do a 1-month retreat meditating on and reciting the mantra of Manjushri. Manjushri is the Buddha of wisdom. So you would think meditating on Manjushri and reciting his mantra would bring wisdom, and this Lama is saying it's better to study the scriptures for 1 month. Yeah. This illustrates the importance of study to gain wisdom. The Dharma is vast, and we should continue to learn its various aspects our entire lives. Okay. And when you look at the really excellent masters, that's exactly what they do. If you visit them in their room, they have Dharma texts there. Yeah. And what do when they have nothing to do? They pull them out and they read them and they contemplate them. Yeah. That's what they do. You want to know what a great master does in their spare time? That's what they do. Okay. So it's not just to accumulate a lot of knowledge. It's because when they learn and they think about it, their understanding deepens. The Dharma is, our bodies may become old, but our minds can still be young and full of enthusiasm for learning. Whenever I have time in my busy schedule, I read one of the great treatises. Even if I have studied it many times before, new aspects are revealed with each reading. Yeah. And you'll see also in the Tibetan community that when His Holiness the Dalai Lama teaches, or when there's a very well-respected Lama who teaches, all the other Geshis and Lamas and so on will go to those teachings, even if the teachings are on a text that they themselves teach to their students. They will go to hear the same teaching again and again and again from their teachers. One of my teachers said to me one time, we were looking at some Dharma texts, and he said, when your teachers are no longer here, and then he picked up a Dharma text and he said, these are your teachers. Yeah. Something to keep in mind when studying the Dharma is that many words have multiple meanings that differ according to the context. The Tibetan word rigpa, for example, is translated as awareness or cognizance in the context of the mind and awareness teachings. But in Dzogchen, it refers to the subtle mind. Okay. Bliss has different meanings in the context of serenity meditation and in highest yoga tantra. So you may hear one word, but in different contexts, it has a totally different meaning. And if you're not aware of that, when you hear teachings, you can get very confused. Yeah. Okay, then reflection. So having studied, we must think about what we learned. This involves investigation and critical analysis to ascertain the correct meaning, which engenders deep conviction in the veracity of the Dharma. Reflection may be done quietly on our own or together with others, discussing and or debating the teachings. For this reason, Tibetan monastics engage in rigorous debates that are often entertaining as well as educational. Sometimes we believe we understand a topic well, but discover we don't, because when someone asks us a question or challenges our assertion, we don't know how to respond. The Sutra Unraveling the Thought explains 4 principles that are useful to understand a phenomenon, such as the mind, from different perspectives. Okay, so this point that he's making that, we may study something, we may learn all the words, but somebody can ask us a question and we're just like, I have no idea what the answer is. Okay, so one of the ways that my teacher helped to educate us, because we were Westerners, we didn't do the Tibetan debate, is he had us lead meditations. And he had us give Dharma talks. Yeah. Because if you're going to lead a meditation, if you're going to give a Dharma talk, you need to study and prepare. Yeah. He would have these things that he called Sangha exams. Yeah. And one of the Sangha members would have to get up and give like a talk, a half an hour talk to the rest of us, and then answer questions. Boy, was that a good learning tool. Okay. So, and because we can see this very often, we hear something, we really think we get it, but then somebody asks us a question and we're really stumped. Yeah. So actually, when that happens, it's very good because it shows us what we don't know. So then we can go and learn more. So we shouldn't feel embarrassed when somebody asks us a question and we don't know the answer. Yeah, we should take it as a learning opportunity. And, we don't make up an answer. We don't humiliate the person for asking the question. We don't change the topic. Yeah, we just say honestly and directly, I don't know, but I will go research it. And then we go ask our teachers, we go look in Dharma books, Yeah. And we try and find the answer, and then we come back once we know it and we tell the other person. Yeah. So we should never be afraid to say, I don't know. That is far better than making something up because you're afraid of looking bad. Yeah. It's not good at all to make something up and just give somebody some old answers because you're attached to your reputation and you want to look good, because that can be very, very damaging for people. Yeah, especially beginners, they tend to remember some of the first things people tell them. Yeah, so if we tell them something that isn't correct, it can be really, very detrimental for them. So it's much better to say, I don't know, and then we go and learn. Yeah, because we're all learners on this path. Yeah. The idea of practicing the Dharma is not to get a PhD in Buddhist studies so that you can write, your name with PhD, from, where are you going to get your PhD? Sravasti Abbey PhD. What? Yeah, we don't give degrees. Yeah. So the purpose isn't to, get a degree, get a piece of paper, something like that. It's to really learn and transform our minds. Mm-hmm. So this is also why the Tibetan monks and nuns do the debate, because when you debate, you ask people questions and they ask you questions, and it goes really fast. I mean, really fast. Like they talk like this, and you have to really keep along with what they're going. I can't even talk as fast as they do when they're debating. And plus, somebody, you're sitting down and somebody's in front of you going, whack, sa, and jumping around and screaming. And sometimes they even call each other names. Okay? You should go and watch it sometimes. It's quite, dynamic. Yeah, the nuns are much more, kind of demure when they're doing that. They go like this. Yeah, but you see the monks, because it's very skillful. You have all these teenage monks and men in their early 20s, yeah, with so much energy. What do? You have them debate. They're screaming, they're jumping around. Yeah, it gets all that energy out. It's really quite skillful. Yeah, yeah. The nuns, like I said, they're more like this. And they push each other. Yeah, because they'll have a group debate, and one person will start, and then another one will come along, push them, and get out of the way. I'm going to debate this guy, and he'll jump in and start debating, and then somebody else will push him out of the way and start debating. You have to have a certain kind of temperament for it. Okay, but this is their pedagogical tool, because, when somebody asks you a question, then you have to think fast on your feet. And also, the debate takes place on a debate courtyard. So everybody is debating at once. It is a racket. You cannot, it's like the noise, it's like a discotheque without music. But all the noise of people, screaming their debates and jumping and clapping their hands. And you have to be able to hear and think clearly through all of that and give an answer. Okay? So it really makes you focus and concentrate. It's quite good. I haven't done it. But I hear about the benefits from my friends. Okay, so now he's going to talk about these 4 principles that are useful to understand a phenomena, from different perspectives. And then these 4 principles can help you when you're debating a particular topic or when you're trying to understand a topic. In the West, some Westerners are developing debate skills in English, but often we have discussions. Yeah, but then Western discussions tend to ramble all over the place. The nice thing about debate is there's a very specific form, and you have to keep to it. So you have to really know what your question is. Yeah. Okay, so these 4 principles. The first one is the principle of nature or reality. So that includes examining realities commonly known in the world, such as water's wetness, or inconceivable realities, such as the Buddhist abilities, and the abiding realities, such as emptiness, the nature of existence, the ultimate nature of existence. To understand the mind, we examine its clear and cognizant nature and its impermanent nature. Due to the mind's nature, 2 contradictory emotions or thoughts, for example, anger and love, cannot be manifest simultaneously. So here he's talking about the principle of nature and in regards to the mind. Yeah. Then the second principle is the principle of dependence. So that entails examining causality, the arising of results from their causes. This enables us to understand that because individual phenomena do not have certain qualities or abilities from their own side, when they interact with other phenomena, new properties emerge. Yeah, and we see this. Yeah, when you bake a cake, you have all the individual ingredients on the table. Yeah, but it's only when you mix them together and put them in an oven that you get a cake. Yeah, none of the ingredients themselves can make a cake. And just even mixing them together to make a batter can't make a cake. Okay, so here the principle of dependence is really talking about, causes and conditions and how they come together to bring about something new. Okay, like he said, new properties emerge. Regarding the mind, afflictions, because he's showing these 4 principles with respect to the mind. Okay, so showing the principle of dependence. Regarding the mind, afflictions depend on ignorance. They cease when ignorance ceases. Virtuous mental factors are not rooted in ignorance and do not cease when ignorance ceases. They depend on other causes that can be cultivated limitlessly. Some results are material, while others are consciousnesses or abstract composites. Impermanent abstract composites are impermanent phenomena that are neither material nor consciousness, such as the person and karmic seeds. The diversity of results is due to the diversity of causes. Wow. Yeah. There are 2 types of causal processes. One involves karma. The other is causality that is distinct from karma. Karmic causal processes involve sentient beings' experiences of happiness and suffering and depend on their intentions. Causal processes that are distinct from karma involve the physical, chemical, and biological laws of nature. Okay? So this is the second principle of dependence is talking about how causes create results. So the causal system about karma has to do with sentient beings' intentions, our actions, and the ethical dimension of those and how that produces our experience. And then the other system of causality that is more physical in nature is, biology, chemistry, physics, astronomy, all those kinds of things, yeah, and how those causes produce results. Okay, then the third principle is the principle of function. And that shows that each phenomena has its own function. Understanding the mind's function, we see that wisdom eradicates ignorance and afflictions, and contemplating the kindness of others as well as their suffering stimulates compassion. Afflictions disturb the mind while wisdom pacifies and calms it. Agent, object, and action function together within any event. Okay, so talking about function, how things work together. Then the fourth principle is the principle of evidence or logical reasoning. Okay, so that involves examining whether something can be apprehended by any of the three reliable cognizers. Direct perceivers, for example, are sense direct perceivers. Yeah, inferential consciousnesses that use reasoning to know their object, and reliable authoritative testimony of experts. By understanding the first three principles, okay, of nature and dependence and function, by understanding those, we can then apply reasoning. For example, because X exists, Y must exist or occur. We can establish a conclusion that cannot be contradicted by any of the three reliable cognizers. In other words, we can, use reasoning to really investigate how things exist and how they function together. Yeah? Based on understanding the above three principles with respect to the mind, we can conclude that liberation is possible and that a path exists that can bring it about. So that's pretty important. If we want to attain liberation, we need to be really convinced that it's possible to do that. That liberation exists, that it's a path to practice to bring that about. So here reasoning is very, very important. Yeah, and in the last 8 days, we just finished 2 days ago, the community here was receiving teachings from Geshe Topke, one very well-respected Lama, who was teaching Dharmakirti's text using reasoning to prove the validity or the reliability of the Buddha as a spiritual guide. Yes, we got into all sorts of reasoning and things, and proving rebirth. Yeah, using reasoning to prove rebirth. It's quite interesting. So these four principles are built one on top of the other. We can use evidence and reasoning to cultivate understanding because they presuppose that phenomena have particular functions. We can understand their functions because underlying them are dependently related phenomena. Why is there a relationship between cause and effect? Because it is the nature of effects to follow their causes. This is the way things are. So there he just explained how these four principles he started with, this is what His Holiness does, how he relates things together. So he started with the fourth principle, the principle of evidence or logical reasoning, and he showed how that can depend on the principle of function, how understanding functions depends on the principle of dependence and causality, and how understanding dependence and causality depends on the principle of nature, how that's the nature of things. To explain these four in their forward sequence, so he just explained them in their reverse sequence, now he's going to do it in the forward sequence. The principle of nature allows for dependent relationships to occur, and these dependent relationships among phenomena provide the basis for the specific function of each phenomenon. Based on the dependent nature of phenomena and their functions, we can employ the principle of reasoning to understand things that are not immediately evident, such as, because there is smoke, there is fire. Yeah? So that involves knowing that the nature of fire is hot and burning, that fire produces smoke, that's causality, and that smoke functions as evidence of fire. Okay? So that's function. Okay. So you probably have to go over this yourself and think about it. Yeah? We apply these same 4 principles when practicing the 4 establishments of mindfulness. Many of the meditations on the body, feelings, mind, and phenomena involve understanding their nature, causes, and functions or effects. Through that, we can use them as reasons to know that the body, feelings, mind, and phenomena are impermanent, unsatisfactory by nature, empty, and selfless. So the 4 establishments of mindfulness is a very is a foundational practice, in Buddhist traditions. The manner in which scientific investigation proceeds is similar to these 4 principles. Scientists first endeavor to understand the various properties of their object of study, their nature. Okay. Then examine what these objects depend on. Through this, they research emergent properties and their functions, and then apply reason to understand characteristics that are not evident. So he's relating this Buddhist practice of the 4 principles to how scientists operate. Okay. There's a little bit more on meditation, so we'll finish this section. Okay. Because we just did study. Remember, we were talking about the 3 understandings, study. With this, we just finished reflection. And in the section on reflection, he talked about these 4 functions. Now he's going to talk about meditation. Okay, so based on learning and critical reflection on the teachings, our meditation will be effective. There he's talking about causality. How to create the causes for effective meditation. Okay, learn and reflect first. The purpose of meditation is to integrate the meaning of the teachings into our mind stream by means of repeated practice. Okay, those 2 words, repeated practice, remember them. Okay, it's not instant realization. That's not what he said. He said repeated practice, meaning doing something again and again and again, training the mind, not whammo, we got it. Okay, having a correct and stable intellectual understanding due to applying the 4 principles, we now engage in absorption meditation to familiarize our minds with the topic and transform intellectual understanding into realization. Here, our meditation mainly, but not exclusively, involves stabilizing meditation, done with access or full concentration. Those are levels of concentration. Although analytic meditation may be applied at times. This produces the understanding arising from meditation, which has a powerful ability to transform our minds. Tomorrow, we'll get into the whole topic of the different kinds of meditation, and so this will become a bit clearer to you. Learning, critical reflection, and meditation complement each other. Some people incorrectly think these 3 apply to sutra practice, but Tantra is actualized through devotion and faith, so study and analysis are not necessary. The Kadam Geshis, these were a school in Tibetan Buddhism in the 12th century, 12th, 13th century. The Kadam Geshis who practiced both Sutra and Tantra used to say, when I hear teachings, I also reflect and meditate. When I reflect, I also hear and meditate. When I meditate, I hear and critically reflect. In other words, they bring these three practices together. Learning gives us general knowledge of the topic and reduces one level of confusion and doubt. Thinking about and analyzing the teachings gives us a more nuanced conceptual understanding based on reasoning. Meditating integrates this understanding with our very being. So you can see how there's a progressive process here. Meditating integrates this understanding with our very being. In the case of realizing the nature of reality, hearing and studying the teachings gives us a general knowledge about the object of negation, the rational arguments proving that all phenomena lack inherent existence, and the stages of realizing emptiness. By then contemplating and discussing what we have studied, we come to understand that the I, the capital one, me, does not exist inherently as it appears, but exists dependently. The I is empty of inherent existence because it is dependent on the 5 psychophysical aggregates and on the mind designating I. The emptiness that we have ascertained by reflection now becomes the object of meditation. In meditation, we now cultivate a union of serenity and insight on emptiness. If you don't understand everything, it's okay. Yeah, this is why we go back and we study. Yeah, remember? What were the 2 words I told you to remember? Repeated practice. Okay, so it pertains actually to the study that we're doing here. Yeah. Okay, so then there's a reflection, kind of your homework. So why are study, critical examination, and meditation important to gain realizations? That's the first question. Second is pick a particular thing and contemplate the 4 principles: nature, dependence, function, and evidence or reasoning in relation to it. And 3, see how those 4 principles work together to bring an understanding. Okay, so that's the end of that section. We have a few minutes for questions and maybe answers.
Question from online, kind of from the beginning of the teachings. Someone's asking, I always wanted to ask the purpose of the deep voice chanting from the Tibetan monks. Sorry to say that it sounds a bit scary. I wonder the reason and the purpose behind it.
It's not meant to sound scary. Okay, that's not the purpose. I think because when you try and chant with a very deep voice, there's a certain energy vibration to it, and it really helps settle the mind. Yeah, I know for myself that when we chant, and we start with very high voices, it creates a certain energy in me, and it's much more of a restless energy than when I start with a lower tone.
And someone else is asking, referring to the quote that said, ritual sessions 4 times a day without the generation and completion stages. What is helpful for a beginning student to understand about the generation and completion stages?
First, to understand them, you have to purify, you have to collect merit, you have to learn all the basic foundation teachings of Lam Rim, develop renunciation, bodhicitta, and wisdom. Okay? That's how you can create the causes and start to learn Tantra later on.
So if a beginner were to adopt this practice, similarly, the practice of study, contemplation, and meditation, and say you don't have, on your own as an individual, what does that look like necessarily? If you're reading these texts on your own, how do you, you begin obviously with a meditation just based on breath, and then you move into the study, but how do you bring your mind back to the study and then into the contemplation and the meditation?
There's, you seek out a teacher. So you go and you may go to different Dharma groups and see what their study program is like. And if you find a teacher that really speaks to your heart, then you stay and you take the study program. You go for weekly teachings or bi-weekly teachings or whatever it is. If you don't live near a center, then there's a lot of online courses now. Okay, so we have an online course that the Abbey runs, and I know of several others to recommend. So you can do that. But I think eventually, it's good to study and learn and read and things on your own, but there's something about having actual face-to-face teachings with somebody and studying with a group of people that is very, very different than doing things on your own. Yeah? So work on your own, but try and find a teacher in a group that really meet your need. And in doing that, be very careful, don't, you really learn what the qualities of a good teacher are, and then look for those qualities when you go and learn from somebody.
A comment that about with the rituals that we do or the different pujas and things, it's not so easy actually to be able to meditate along with it and keep the mind engaged. I found that it is a practice, it's a learning in itself. When I first started learning, I turned up and there is the expectation that the ritual itself will transform the mind.
Yeah.
And there's an element there, but it takes effort to keep the mind there, to not wander, to not just say the words and to really engage yourself in it. It's quite...
Yeah, when you're doing a puja, you have to concentrate on what you're saying. You can't just go la la la, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sang, Namo Sang. Deshin Sherpatam Chedang, Havakadram Dharma. No, you have to, think about what you're saying. Okay? Yeah, it's not just the saying of the words. It's really, focusing. You use the words to ground your focus, to pay attention to something. Yeah. And it can be a challenge, especially when you do the same practice every day, Yeah, that is the Namo Gurvya, Namo Buddhaya. Okay, got that done. Yeah. So to really, stay engaged, it takes concentration. Yeah. And it takes motivation.
I continue to struggle with this idea that the causal processes that are distinct from karma are these physical, chemical, and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But karma did have something to do with the fact that we're in this kind of world, right?
Well, His Holiness says that karma will influence what birth we take. Yeah. So in that sense, why are we born on planet Earth? That had something to do with our own actions. Is that what you're asking?
Kind of.
Or are you saying, did karma create calcium?
No.
It didn't.
No.
By the way. And it didn't create oxygen or anything else. Yeah.
They do say that the worlds that beings live in are created by their karma.
That means that we take, that what His Holiness explains is when a world is forming, the karma of the people who will be born there may influence it at the beginning, like millions of years ago, okay? Thank you. But it isn't like our karma went, okay, poof, I'm going to create a microphone. When it says our karma created the world, it means our karma also influences our perspective. It influences our sense organs, how our sense powers perceive things. It influences how we conceptualize things, how things appear to us. So we shouldn't take this literally, like karma, karma created the earthquake. It's not like that. Karma made the people who were experiencing the result of the earthquake be there when it happened. Okay? But it isn't that karma, went boom, 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 and then the earth moved. Okay?
From our Singaporean friends, thank you so much for the teaching today. I am still a little bit confused on the 4 principles, particularly the forward and backward sequence. For our daily practice, how can we do it? Can you give an example?
Okay. What I would recommend is, going back and writing out the 4 principles. His Holiness used the example of the mind. Okay? So just write out the 4 principles, then go back and study the example of the mind. What is the nature of the mind? It's clarity and awareness. Okay? What is the dependence on the mind? Ignorance produces afflictions. Yeah? When ignorance stops, so does afflictions. But virtuous activities or virtuous minds don't stop when ignorance stops. Function. Afflictions. Our thoughts create our actions. That's how they function. Yeah. And then the evidence or reasoning, put all those together. If my thoughts create the functions and there's a causal process in there, then maybe I better pay attention to my thoughts and my actions and what kind of results they produce. Okay? So use the example that His Holiness gave and study it going forward, then do the backward thing, and then make your own example of something else. One more? Okay.
Venerable, there are dynamic changes amongst the millennial students who might not even come to class. How would hearing, examination, and meditation appear to be more appealing to the new generation than just hearing? I think it's more a statement than a question. I'm not sure.
Is it basically saying that the millennials want something more exciting than listening to a Dharma talk?
I think so. Or no, I think that they're saying that the 3 is more appealing than just turning up to class where you're just passively listening, that this trio is much more meaningful.
Yeah, but to do the trio, you need to start with listening, okay? But then, like we have here at the Abbey, when people come for retreats, there's meditation, there's listening to teachings, there's discussion, there's a whole variety of different ways in which we engage in the Dharma, okay? How to make it more interesting? People have to want to learn the Dharma. Yeah, our job is not to make the Dharma Walt Disney interesting so that everybody wants to come and listen to it. Yeah, our job is, you want to make the Dharma relevant, you want to have a good presentation, but people from their side have to be interested and want to learn. And they have to be willing to sit and listen to a Dharma talk. And they have to be willing to sit and with crossed legs and, try and meditate. And they have to be willing to discuss how they're relating to the teachings on a personal level. If they're expecting that, all you do is you turn on your phone and something happens, then I think there was another line in this one. What was the one we read today? Buddhists do not wash away negativities with water, clear away beings, duke out with their hands, or give realizations through smartphones. Okay? That's not the way it happens. So people from their side, again, this whole thing, like we were talking with the rituals, it isn't that you pray and the ritual does it and you just sit there. So it's the same thing with learning. People have to want to learn. They have to be interested. They have to exert themselves. I mean, all you people, this is Labor Day weekend. I mean, end of summer, Labor Day, you could be on the beach, getting skin cancer. Yeah, but instead you chose to come here on the Labor Day weekend and, sit cross-legged and do something with your mind. And why? Because you're interested and you're sincere and you have some kind of spiritual yearning. So some energy came from your side and you acted on it, and then you get the benefit of doing that. Yeah, we didn't go down, to Main Street, Spokane and say, come one, come all. We're doing a retreat over Labor Day. Yeah, because nobody would come even if we did that, Even we say you get Sravasti Abbey fantastic cuisine. Yeah. Better than any Big Mac you've ever had. Still they wouldn't come. Okay? So it's something has to come from individuals. Isn't it? You all came here for a reason, didn't you? Yeah. And you gave something up to come here. I mean, like I said, you could have been on the beach. You could have been with your relatives, Right, that's just what I was going to say, having hot dogs and marshmallows. Yeah, and who knows what else you're doing with your relatives, But you gave all that up to come here because there was some kind of spiritual interest and spiritual yearning. Huh? So I congratulate you. Yeah, you'll leave with sore knees and an aching back. And a happy mind. And a mind that has more knowledge, and a mind that can think more clearly, and a mind that knows yourself better, and that is learning some tools on how to create the causes to happiness and how to abandon the causes of suffering. That's what you'll come away with. Yeah? So, and that's because you put out the effort to get that. So, Singaporeans who are writing those questions, yes, we are here and you are welcome to come. And I am traveling over the Pacific Ocean on a long flight that is miserable to go to Singapore and teach there. So don't tell me it's too difficult to come here. Because look what I'd go through to go to Singapore, where it's so hot and sweaty. Really, it is so hot and sweaty. You ever been to Singapore? It is hot and sweaty. And the people are wonderful. And they feed you bihun. Rice noodles. Okay, I think we better dedicate while we're ahead.